Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Kisma and welcome to episode 112, Creating Headspace. I'm really excited about this episode because there's one thing that I've seen time and time again with my clients and my students, and certainly myself, is that when it gets noisy upstairs, it's nearly impossible to discern and decipher what's true and real and most important for us. So stay tuned and we're going to dive in to help you create more headspace. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hello, Nick.
Hello, Kisma.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Hanging out here at the Common Grounds workspace, our office.
On a Saturday afternoon.
Very quiet, nice and peaceful.
Very nice. Yes, it's more quiet than I thought would be with the campaign office.
Yeah, there's a campaign office here, and so those little worker bees are going hard, but it's pretty peaceful here.
It is nice and quiet. Yeah, I like the peace and quiet.
What have you been up to today so far?
Today has been a little bit more of a relaxed day for me.
It's a good day.
So I got up and I was thinking I would, there's some things that I wanted to get done and I decided that I was not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And I had a little space. I did a little reading. I sat out on the balcony and then I showed up here to do some podcasting.
That's good. Yeah, space is important. And I spent a little time this morning with one client early, and then I took a drive, which always gives me a little headspace, and met another dear client at Phil's Coffee, which was fun. And then we took a walk over to the Self-Realization Center in Encinitas, and we popped into the meditation hall, which was really peaceful and quiet. And it gave me inspiration for this episode because sometimes, man, things get so busy in our heads, in our lives. And space is one of those essential components, I feel, that needs to happen for us to feel content and even a hint of peace.
Yeah. The first thing I did today, or the thing that helped me today, was to make a decision. Because I had
what were you deciding? Something that I should be clued in on here?
Yeah, well, I made a previous decision. That was, I had an idea in the back of my head that, I'd like to get this done and this done this morning, and then we'll see. And I decided differently. And if I hadn't done that, and then I just kind of went into default, and it's okay, well, I really want to just have a little space for myself. And then I got these other things kind of lingering in the back of my head. Well, it's going to get noisy up there really fast. And then it's going to be well, I should be doing this. I said I was going to do that. And I really just made a decision that I think I'm going to decide something different. And this is what I'm going to do now.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because for our listeners, this is what happens when we don't view things as decisions. And oftentimes I think we might avoid that, because if we know we're supposedly to do something, or we have a list and we don't do it, we kind of feel like that decision was, wow, I failed, I didn't do it. But it's exact opposite. It's actually, I like to call it an executive life decision, that today I'm actually not going to do what was on the list. I'm going to do this instead. And you're right, Nick, it just eliminates so much. The should to me is very noisy in the head. Yeah. Once we start shoulding ourselves, we're putting guilt and shame and all this lower vibe emotions, which will create more noise. And so that simple decision, that pivot and taking responsibility and accountability actually creates more space in the head.
It actually does. Yeah, because it sets a boundary. It says it's totally okay for me to do this. And then sure, there might be there's certainly another little part of me, that's thinking, oh, well, you think now you're going to redo your schedule, or when is this going to fit in, or anything like that. And Yeah, like there's part of it there, but at the end of the day, that was what I wanted. That was what I felt was most important. And so that's what I decided to do. And it really does cut off a lot of that chatter.
Oh, for sure.
So, and then there's the other part, that you can clean up in all sorts of different ways of, I should be doing more. It's not okay for me to take a break. It's not okay that's a big one. It's not okay for me to take a break. There's not enough time. I'll get behind. Like all these other sorts of funny little programs that run that can creep in there. But to me, that decision creates that boundary that just says, not today.
Not today. And those little stories that creep in, I should, if I don't get this done, etc. Those aren't necessarily the highest truths in our life. And I think the organization system of whatever all of our listeners use, it's really important to prioritize what is important, what is in the highest and best of my human, my family, my job, or my business, and then to go with that. And to remember that we are being influenced almost every waking moment by noise externally.
Yeah.
It is real. I mean, we've talked about this before, but it's rampant. We are in the information age. We are in the electronic age, and everywhere there's some bits of information coming at us and through us and into our brain. And that takes up space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we've not really figured out how to use the entire mind and brain. We know that as a fact. We're making headway. We certainly work a lot on clearing space. So we use more aspects of our mind and our brain. But that noise, man, can be exhausting.
Yeah. There was somebody recently that was asking me, well, as far as like following your path and purpose and, really doing what you're here to do in the world, like what's one of the most important things you can do? And my answer to that was simply, first thing you have to be able to do is make really clear decisions quickly. For that exact reason.
Yes.
Because there's just too much noise going on. And if you don't cut through it and stay in action, you'll be buried in no time.
And here's a hint. If you're not making those clear and clean decisions, fatigue, mental fatigue, scrolling along Facebook. We love when you visit our Facebook videos. We really do. I know that's one of my efforts right now. I'm in a 10-day challenge of putting out some hopefully good information for people. But the moment that we're in that rhythm of being hooked in and something fires off in the head of either comparison, why is this person getting this and I'm not? Oh my gosh, maybe I need that. Maybe I need to do this right now. Like an anxiety in the thoughts. Once that fires off, there's too much information in the head.
Yep.
And we've got to make space.
Yeah, yeah. And another part of this that I think is just really important, why this conversation is so important, I should say, is the moral obligation to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
And I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but I do want to be really clear on this, is you actually have a moral obligation to care for yourself.
Talk a little bit more about that. What do you mean moral obligation?
I mean, if you don't want to be a burden on society and you don't want to be a burden on your family, and you actually want to be helpful to people and do service in the world, do something good in the world, and have, a cool life, then you must take care of yourself.
Yeah. And taking care, I mean, we go to the absolute teaching, right? The highest form of service is to seek self-realization. That's a lofty goal. Yet it could be the highest form of service is to take the best care of mind, body, spirit. To be the best version of yourself every day, to show up in a way. And that creates a ripple effect. It
does. Yeah. Yeah. Because you think about, like, I've seen so many people who, they have really big missions. Like it's the thing, like they have to have a huge mission, make this really, really big mission. It's, kind of a thing that people do. And that's cool. Like nothing wrong with that at all. But then they get crushed by it.
Yeah.
And
takes over.
Yeah. They wind up depleted. They don't take care of themselves while they're trying to get there. They wind up playing smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they really don't achieve nearly as much as they could. Right. They do not achieve their potential by any stretch of the imagination. And the worst part about it, though, is they're actually not helping the people that they're here to help. Right. So they're not fulfilling their duty or their goal to help those folks.
Yeah, that's true.
And that is a problem. Like that is a significant problem.
Would you say that comes from a really strong presence of ego? and not having like a higher, we talk a lot about having an ideal that is greater than you, that serves humanity for whatever one is building?
Well, I think it comes from a lot of different things. You're right, though. That's definitely a big part of it is the self-centric thinking. I am the doer, I am the one doing this. And that's not the whole story.
Right.
by any stretch. Like you're not really doing a lot at all. But the other part of that is really just misunderstanding and miscalculation and not having the mental fortitude to stay on task.
Yeah.
So it's in the Vedantic teachings, they call that a weak intellect. You have
a weak intellect. No discernment.
It's not to say that you're stupid. It's to say you're probably brilliant. But at the end of the day, if you can't keep yourself on track, if you can't keep yourself from getting sucked into distractions and drama and things like that, you do not have the intellectual capacity to really hold your mind steady.
Hold the mind steady.
And that's a problem.
That's it. It's what creates fatigue. I talked about this on my second Facebook Live of 10 today about how limitations are a mental phenomenon. And the limitations of the conditioned personality or the limitations of the noise in the head, I can't do this, it's too much, or there's just so much noise, so much happening upstairs that we are unable to hold that focus on what's right before us.
Yeah.
And then the mind does all these very fascinating gymnastics, up, down, all around and pulling at things as it goes up, down, all around. And before we know it, there's drama and trauma going on in our own head, regardless of the actions our body are taking.
Right.
And that's tiring.
It's really tiring.
And it prevents truth from coming in.
Yep.
It's like a few episodes ago, we talked about intuition. A noisy head will prevent an accelerated, higher, clear, intuitive channel.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's like the Wi-Fi is just
Wi-Fi's distorted.
Yeah. Or it's like you put your little Wi-Fi thing all the way back in the basement in some cement room, like nothing's getting through
Or
there.
I don't know if you're like the old style TV at night when there was no cable all night long, there was no QVC, and all of a sudden it was like white noise.
Oh man, that always reminds me of Poltergeist.
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of going on in the head.
I think I watched that movie when I was too young.
Probably.
Yeah. That's exactly the point. What's interesting though is that as you fatigue, and human equipments, like your human equipments will fatigue. Your mind is one of those, and it will fatigue. And as it does, then it becomes more susceptible to those distractions.
And it's a kind of funny circle because the more distractions, the faster it fatigues.
Exactly. Yeah. So it goes down really quickly once it hits that point. So that's where it becomes really important. And that's kind of where I was at this morning to think like, I think it's better if I just have this time and just do whatever I want, have some free think space.
So that to me sounds like one of your tool steps to create more headspace is to make a choice. However, you had the awareness that choice of taking space, taking time was more beneficial. What can we share with our listeners to help them have that actual awareness? Because sometimes I'll hear, my clients might say, well, I'm not sure. I feel like I should be doing.
Yeah.
Where in essence, having the space would be more productive.
Well, you gave the answer right there. And that's exactly what I caught myself in for a minute was that little wrestle in my mind of, this and that and all these other things. And when I really just stopped to really assess the situation. Okay. And, looking back on I did take a minute to look back on my week and see, here's what happened. And that was kind of a lot. And normally on a Saturday morning, like I love what I do. It's not like I need a weekend or anything.
Right.
Like I love doing what I do and I want to be the best at it that I possibly can. And so I want to be at my best. And when I looked at, just over the overall scope of things and where I'm heading, I thought, I think it's more important for me to have some free think space this morning. And so that's kind of what I decided. But the red flag was when I felt that
wrestle,
that little tug of war in my head that was like, oh, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. And I thought, wait a second, like,
so
I do not want to be having this going on.
The wrestle, the noise, the blame it's like a stop, drop, and breathe. Stop, drop, breathe, and reassess.
Yeah.
For you people that meditate, it could be a stop, drop, and meditation. Like me hitting the self-realization center today, it was like all I needed was 12 minutes. I was like, oh, so much clearer. And it was just being in solitude and quietude, really.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much. And that really does speak to the hooks and the chords and the fast moving pace that we think our mind needs to be in. And the other piece of this, as we're talking about our role is to take care of ourselves, to be the best version of ourselves for humanity. Sometimes what will happen is there are things we don't want to look at or deal with or face. And so we stay very busy and congested in the mind.
Yes.
And this happens, right? And I like to let people know, like, don't go feeling badly, like avoid the feeling bad. If there's something to look at, if there's something to work through, let's work through it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it is coming and gurgling and percolating, even boiling from the subconscious mind and taking up more space than one realizes.
Yeah. I give a little space around that. You can feel bad for a minute.
Yeah.
Because there's some things, honestly speaking, there are some things that are worthy of remorse. You know, when you don't keep your word, somebody's counting on you for something and you bomb because of something else. It's like, I'm not going to use the word should, but I'll use the word should actually. You should feel a little bad about that.
Yeah. It's a proper emotion. It's a proper process.
So, okay, great. Let yourself have that for a minute. 60 seconds.
It's all for learning.
Cut the cords and on to the next thing because that's not going to help you. But you're so spot on though. It's like, don't waste any time on that because it's just not going to help
It's happened.
anybody.
And make amends if there's amends to be made. That's always important in the part of evolution. However, face it, deal with it, get it up and out because it's some level of your being, whatever you're wrestling with is attacking you.
Yeah.
And it's attacking you at night. It's attacking you in meetings. It's poking and it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So deal with it. Deal with whatever needs to be dealt with. If you need help with that, info@sourcemovement.com. We're really good at that.
You know where to find us.
That's what we do all day long. And it's exciting and fascinating. So what about, I was thinking another tool. Well, number one, assessing, knowing when that mental wrestling's going on.
Yeah. Make a decision to
Make a decision to set a boundary. Assessing when there's fatigue, right? If there's really fatigue, again, so much of that fatigue starts in the mind. Yep. People are going from past, present to future. They're trying to be 3 people at once. That's pretty tiring. It's really exhausting. And probably 5 more people in the future. So some of you out there are trying to be 10 people at once. That's like really exhausting. So that's another place to stop, drop, and breathe, assess, take a walk, get in nature for some people is a great way to create space. Some people who are movement centered, we talk about this on the Ultimate Life Tool Assessment. If they're movement centered, that's my second energy center, I take a drive and everything just starts to come through.
Yep.
It's like clearing the space. So doing that which opens up your energy centers. And if you want to discover that through the Ultimate Life Tool, we'll have a link to take that. It's a really cool process. You get to spend time with Nick or myself and go through an amazing, amazing assessment tool. So that's one of it. Nick, the other thing I thought, because you're president of Energy Mastery, is could you take everyone through a simple breathing process? Because we hear that a lot, breathe, which is true.
Breathe, yeah.
However, I know that you know a breathing process that's pretty simple and magical to create space in the head.
Sure. I mean, breathing is key because it's how you're moving energy in your body. And that's the first thing to go. And then your system.
But not to completely go. Let's, because we're breathing.
Well, it's not like you're dying, but it's if you sit down in front of your computer and you start doing something, I'm betting that you're taking maybe a third of a breath.
Yes.
And there's not necessarily rhythm to it. And I'll bet you'll even find yourself holding your breath. I bet there's at least
I would agree with
70% chance that you're going to be holding your breath as well. So it's not like it's gone altogether. You would expire, but it is not as productive as it could be.
Right.
And it's really important because that's the first thing to do.
Right.
Is to take a breath. And really and truly, if you want to master the energy in your life, then this is actually the first step, and it's incredibly profound. And it's not like,
and it's right there for us.
It's always there for you,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And it's not like you'll learn it and it's like, oh, I learned this thing and then now I've got it. You will practice this for years.
Right.
To really bring it into your life and to really use it to its fullest. It's a very, very deep thing. And I don't say that lightly. Like, it's actually incredibly powerful. So what you do is incredibly simple as well. That's what I love about it, because I don't like complicated things, because when I have to stop my life to think about doing some complicated thing to make myself feel better, I don't want to do that. Right. And
stress.
Yeah. Like, who wants to do that? So it's really, really simple. You sit up straight first and foremost. Don't try to breathe while your body's all you're slouched over.
Yeah.
And what that actually does is it compresses the whole front side of your body. So none of the energy on the front side of your body can move, which is where all that stuff is.
So it actually creates congestion.
It will create congestion. It'll make it harder for things to move. Yeah. So you sit up straight, put your shoulders back, put your chest up, all of those good things. And then the tip of the tongue goes at the roof of the mouth, and you're going to finish an exhale. It's all in and out through the nose. You finish an exhale through the nose, and then you breathe in for 6 counts. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then hold for 3, and then exhale for 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then hold for 3, 2.
So you actually hold the bottom of the exhale.
The bottoms and the tops.
Okay.
That's where the magic is.
Let's do that again. It felt really good.
That's really where the magic is in the bottom.
Holding the exhale and holding the top.
Yeah. So we'll start again.
Okay.
So finish your exhale.
All right, gang.
And then inhale for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2. And then exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2. And let's do one more. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Getting blissed
Hold.
out.
And then exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2.
It's like magic. Heads clear, right, guys? And what I love about this, you can do it in front of your computer. You can do it while you're driving. You can do it while you're cooking. It's just a pattern of breath that creates more space.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
And you
really
can slow
nice.
it down. Like, that's kind of a medium pattern. It's awesome before bed.
Yeah.
You'll drift off in the pauses.
Right. Exactly.
And it's amazing.
Exactly.
It's you just, all of a sudden you're asleep.
And to be fair, it takes a bit of discipline. It takes a choice. It takes a bit of direction. But boy, the rewards are so amazing.
Yeah. What days when I use it go awesome, and days when I forget are harder.
What happens? Do you get depleted? Do you get spacey?
That's a great question. It shows up in some different ways. Distractions are more prevalent. It's easier to get into this thing or that thing. And then all of a sudden I'm off on some track that wasn't where what I needed to be doing. Yes, there is a little bit more depletion, for sure, because your body's not having the same resources to refuel itself. And yeah, I just think it's really easy to lose track of time when I'm not breathing. And I guess that would go under the category of distraction, where it's like, what, like an hour just went by? Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And that's not,
ungrounded.
that's not okay. Not in my world anyway. Like, that's not acceptable. So that's why I use this. And that's why I always bring it back. And look, truth be, this is something I learned years ago, and I still practice it. And I use that specific word, practice it. Like, I still practice it.
Yeah.
Because I still need some reminders here and there. If I notice that I'm having, a lot going on, especially on really busy days, the breath is the savior. It's the savior of all things. And that's the time when it's easiest to forget. Put that frickin' Post-it note up there.
Put the Post-it note. And, just speaking to those of you that have children, or those of you that are managing teams, or you're on sales call, having that breath process creating space will allow your intellect, it gives the intellect a chance to come front and center.
Yeah.
And then we practice holding the mind, the thought steady. We practice, again, objectivity. We look at not taking things personally. Because that's another thing that takes up space in the head is when we take things personally. All of a sudden, it's like, vroom, drama and trauma upstairs in the head. So I love this because it allows us to be aware.
Yep.
Aware and present. And when we're aware and present to this moment, there is simply more space.
Yep.
And when there's more space in the mind, guess what? We get to direct our thoughts. We get to direct the subconscious mind to the place where we want it to go.
Yeah.
Because what we're thinking about, we're drawing in.
Exactly. And a lot of really magical things happen.
Yeah.
With just a little bit of space is when you have those limiting thoughts, those agitating thoughts, you will actually be more aware of them.
Exactly. And then you can rid them faster.
So when your mind is so entangled and engrossed with this thing, whatever that is, that's right in front of you, that's loudest, right? It's usually the thing that's loudest, that's right in front of you. Then all those little things in the background, they just kind of sit there, they kind of spin around and they build steam a lot of times and they build up.
They build up and they are frequency and they attract more of that same frequency.
And they will drain your resources.
Yeah.
Like they'll drain the mental resources, and the brain takes a lot of energy in order to process the amount of information that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So that's one of the hacks. And that's one that is really suitable for everybody.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned before, with this moving center, that's a really good strategy for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Not everybody has a moving center.
Right.
So some people need to and not everybody should stop their day and meditate.
Right.
Like that is not appropriate for everybody. You'll drive yourself crazy. You'll frustrate yourself and you'll feel like you're either stupid or whatever because you're failing at it, and it's not working. And you're like, what am I doing wrong? It's not you. Or it's not, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just, it's not the most appropriate technique for you. That one I have found to be universal though.
Yes.
There's no center that
it's prana,
that
right? Yeah, exactly. And it can be done anywhere, any place at any time.
Yeah.
That's great. And, I was thinking before we go, like there are so many apps out there. They're meditation apps, which some are really not meditations. They're just relaxation processes. I think there's actually an app called Headspace.
There is, yeah.
Cool. There's theta music. There are good tools, but here's the deal. This one's in you.
Yeah.
This is you breathing. This is you putting the tip of the tongue to the roof of your mouth, inhaling for 6, holding for 3, exhaling for 6, holding for 3. And this is you. You don't have to put your headset on. You don't have to go looking for stuff. It's really a beautiful process.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about the brain training things actually for a minute. And so there is a challenge that's inherent with those. And it's really important because when you're brain training, whether it's the binaural beats, the isochronic tones, or whatever that is, the effort is to entrain your brain to a specific frequency so that it becomes more, so that it restores more, and then it essentially is more resilient. Okay, great. Like very cool concept. Except that what's happening is you're essentially, again, is putting more information into the brain and you're throwing more stuff on top of what's already there. So it's not really helping to get all of that out. It's at very best, it's just kind of pushing it to the side.
Right.
And it's not actually solving anything.
It's not solving or resolving anything.
Right. Because if you're having a lot of agitation in your mind, like anxiety is huge.
Right.
Anxiety is a really big deal. A lot of people have it and have challenges with it. And stress, that goes along with that is a big thing. And people have a lot going on in their brains, and you can push it off to the side for a while, and that might feel really good. Great, go you, because you grabbed a moment for yourself, and there's so much more to be had.
Right.
There's so much more to be had, and it's really about resolving those things so that they become. Because when you resolve it, what really happens is then you're returning to your original state.
Well, nice opportunity for me to give a little plug to my meditation pod.
Oh, cool! Is it ready?
It will. Yes, when this episode airs, it's ready. Link in the show notes. really cool 5 meditations for different aspects. And yes, they do solve and resolve. So check it out in the show notes.
Yeah,
you guys are going to love it.
That's super important because it's not to say that the tools don't have value. It's to say that you need something that really actually helps you to resolve those things.
Right.
So that the problem doesn't get worse and so that you're not constantly fighting an uphill battle.
Right. Exactly.
Because it should get easier and you shouldn't have to practice meditation for 20 years in order to be good at it. Like that's just not.
Well, that's a whole nother, it's not about being good at meditate. I mean, meditation is an arrival. It's about clearing the head and being present.
Well, that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Like you shouldn't have to practice to be able for 20 years to be able to quiet your head.
Yeah.
Like that is not, that's not needed.
Yeah.
There's much faster ways.
Exactly.
And it's more important than ever because we go right back to the beginning of what you said is so much information.
Exactly.
There's so much going on.
So there you go, everyone. Would love to hear from you if this is relevant, how it's relevant, and what you plan to do to give yourself some more headspace. So make sure you email us info@sourcemovement.com. Remember that 6-3 breathing exercise Nick took us through. Check out the Ultimate Life Tool link and the Meditation Pod link in the show notes. And Nick, any last words for our listeners?
Last words would be that Ultimate Life Tool is just one more thing on that because what that does is that's going to show you how to hit your reset button.
It is. It really does show you how to hit your reset button.
It'll give you the exact code
formula
in order to how to do that.
That's great.
That's hit your reset button super fast.
Worth the investment, worth the time with us, worth the knowledge that you'll have forever through that tool. So
yeah, it's super valuable. And then beyond that, if you found value in this, we so appreciate it when you share it. It goes a long ways. It's a nice way to tithe. And sometimes it's a really nice way for somebody to hear something that they may need to hear in a different voice.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Share it with friends, family, give us a review on iTunes, catch us on Spotify, all those places. Until next time, thanks so much for being here, guys.
Namaste.
Peace. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.